Welcome to Eurotech training. Today we'll study welding codes and standards. Now let us see what are the types of welding codes and standard. Firstly, American Society of Mechanical Engineers, that is the ASME code. American Welding Society, AWS standards. American Petroleum Institute, that is API standards. International Organization for Standardization, ISO standards, and little less important ones, British standards, Canadian standards, Australian and New Zealand standards, European Union standards, and German standards. Now we will see one by one what are these included in each of these headings. Firstly, we will see American Society of Mechanical Engineers, that is the ASME code, and the ASME code is for the boilers and the pressure vessel codes, that is the BPVC, covers all aspects of design and manufacture of boilers and pressure vessels. We are not covering all the codes here, it is only the important ones that are being covered. And among the important ones, with the lighter blue color are the most important ones. So in this, we are listed 4, which are the 2 main are important are ASME section 5, which is for the non-destructive examination, and ASME section 9, which is for the welding and brazing specification. Coming to American Welding Society, AWS standards, which has been listed in 4 pages, we will just highlight the important ones. The American Welding Society published over about 240 AWS developed codes, recommended practices and guides which are written in accordance with the American National Standard Institute, that is NC. The following is a partial list of the more common publications. So the important ones here we are only covering AWS A5.1, which is for specification of carbon steel electrode for SMAW process. Secondly, AWS A5.18, which is specification for carbon steel electrode for process GMAW. And coming to the AWS B2.1, basically it is for the specification of the welding procedure and the performance qualification, primarily for the qualification of the welders. The important one here is the AWS D1.1, which is for the structural welding steel, and based on these the WPS, WPQR, and the testing of the welders is being done. So we have more series for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and all that. That is meant for basically different metals. The 2 is for aluminum, sheet steel, reinforcing steel, stainless steel, and so on. So these are the processes which have been listed as far as the AWS is concerned. The important ones we have just marked. This is the list which has been given on the sheet. You can just go through this list, and these are not very usually used, commonly used, but they are the processes which have been listed as the important ones. And we also have got the AWS D15.1, which is primarily for the railroad welding. So this is one important among the which has been listed here. So this is about the American Welding Society, the AWS standards. Now coming to the next standards. The next one is very famous International Organization for Standardization, that is the ISO standards, which are given in the 4 sheets here, 4 slides, and the important ones, let's see the important ones. ISO 3834, which is for the quality requirement for fusion welding of metallic materials, and it has got 5 parts. that is from part 1 to part 5, and it has got different combinations. And number 2 part is a basically comprehensive requirement of quality requirements. ISO 4063, which has the combination of all the welding processes which have been there, and this indicates about the welding and allied processes like arc welding, pressure welding, uh, then gas welding, and so on. So this list we'll also be attaching in the description. You can download the ISO 4063 so that you know what are the various processes which have been listed under the ISO. ISO 9606 is the most important standard, which is basically for the qualification test of the welders. It has got 5 parts. So it's a part 1 is for the basically metal, ferrous metal, that is maybe mild steel, carbon steel, and so on. And for 2, it is for aluminum, and it carries on for up to number 5. So ISO 9606 is for the qualification of the welders over the different metals. And other processes are just for academic interest. You can just go through the remaining standards. Coming to the ISO 15609, it is about the specification, qualification of the welding procedure of metallic metal, welding procedure specification. This is primarily for making a WPS, and this WPS is prepared on with the basis of which standard? Let's see. It's based on the standard ISO 15614, basically specification and qualification of welding procedure for metallic material, and it is a procedure test. So it is basically the test is there. Based on the WPQR, you are making the WPS. Another standard ISO 17635 basically is about the non-destructive testing. So all these procedures of NDT are given in this standard. The next standard is American Petroleum Institute, that is the API standards. Here, the API is the oldest and most successful programs is in development of API standard, which started with the first standard in 1924. API maintains over 500 standards covering oil and gas fields. But here, the important one is API 1104, which is primarily for the welding of pipelines and related facilities. Coming to Australian and New Zealand standards, we will not dwell much on this. It is only the one odd that we will be just covering. That is basically the structural steel welding, welding of structural steel. The rest you can just go through. And the list of these standards will also be in the description loaded. You can download from there also. Canadian standards, here we'll only touch upon W47.1 9 version. This is a certification of companies for fusion welding of steel. British standard, the list is there. You can just go through the list. So these are the standards which are normally followed by the British and also by the European Union. These are the standards which are mostly prevalent, but they are not as famous as what we have got, the 4 standards like API, AWS, ISO, and ASME. Coming to European Union, we'll just see the 2 standards, EN 287-1, basically qualification test of the welders and for the fusion welding, and secondly is about the execution of steel structure of aluminum structure. So these 2 standards we just highlight, and rest you can go through the list of the other standards. The second list about the European standard is listed. Please go through this list, comprehensive, but only being used by the European Union countries and the Britain. And finally, the last is the German standard. The DIN is basically Deutsche Institute of Normung, which has DIN. So basically, based on the DIN, they have had the standards based. So this is the welding terms dependent of material for metal welding, and the rest two are basically on the German language, which you can just ignore. Gentlemen, we regularly carry and conduct the webinars for the welding training courses and the other courses. So if you are interested to attend the webinars, please share your name, email ID, and mobile number to our current addresses, which are listed below, so that whenever we conduct these webinars, we can inform you, and you are welcome to attend these webinars. And it will be very useful. And the people who are aspiring to go abroad for jobs or from studies, these learning the welding processes and welding techniques and technology, it will be very, very useful, and it will enhance your professional career. Thank you very much.